Okay, Victoria, looking at your final 10 and reading your artist statement. And the first thing with your final 10 images is that I'm impressed with your subject matter and your approach. This is not an easy thing to do, and you went after this, really challenged yourself, and it shows. The still lifes, this is really kind of like a lighting exercise in a lot of respects. And there's some really good, this is a very detailed work. This is hard to do, especially with, maybe limited classes and experience with lighting. And I'm excited for you to get, if this is a direction that you want to go, and I'm reading your artist statement very carefully, we have a class called Still Life. We have a class called Location Lighting, which gets into all kinds of strobes. We have a class called Quality of Light. So you can really refine this. And one of the things that you said in your artist statement was you want to create photos that are vibrant, fun, and mouth-watering, and you want your images to be a dream of flipping through a magazine or a cookbook one day and seeing your photos splashed through the pages. Well, if that's what you want to do, then I have good news for you, that you will. Your images in your artist statement kind of remind me of a student that came before you. Her name's Amy Harold, amyharold.com. She graduated not too long ago, maybe a year, maybe 2 years ago, and she decided to focus on food photography. And she has now she's just got a cookbook of all her images. Actually, she was hired, commissioned to shoot all the images for this cookbook, and she's doing great stuff. And she has a rep now. His name is Norman Masloff. He's out of San Francisco. He's representing her. So that kind of approach, like her, she's a few years ahead of you, of course. But if you wanted to do that, then you could, and you will. And, keeping open to the fact that you might change your mind, you might expand into other things. But I think for right now, your approach with these 10 images being very kind of acute and focused and thematic, I think is really great. And even though it wasn't a requirement, like, some people are listening to this, it was not a requirement to have a specific theme for your 10 images. I tried to make that clear so people would not freak out. I realize it's a first semester class, but the fact that you did do that, I think is just brilliant. I think it's great, and it's kind of the ultimate in a lot of respects. So the lighting is very thoughtful and well considered. I mean, there's things that could be better. Like, let's go into some images. Like, image number one, it's kind of got this side light. It's handled very, very well. It's a good exposure. It's sharp. And there's things like, you see the big spoon, or it's not a spoon, but measuring device, the biggest one. You've got that hot spot in the middle. When you take a lighting class and you really start to get into the small nuances of lighting, you will figure out ways to minimize that hard reflection. And it takes some practice. It takes some serious skill. And then image number three, which I think is one of the better photographs, you've got this hot spot on the rice, and that gets down to exposure. But really, it gets into lighting. And you will practice that, assuming that's what you want to do. And you'll refine that. And what's interesting is you're doing this with a digital SLR camera. And when you get into maybe shooting with 4x5 or shooting with tilts and shifts on your lenses, you can extend the depth of field. You can put the focus wherever you want. Those cameras are more designed for still life photography. But the fact that you're doing this with a digital SLR with minimal background or explanation with lighting is pretty impressive. It's a little risky. And I mean risky in a good way. I think that you took some chances here. Like, look at the Oreo cookies. So if you and I were doing this for you, and I was helping you, for the cover of a magazine, we would want to use the right equipment to get all those Oreos sharp. Probably. I mean, that would be up to you. But just assuming we did, you'd want to use the right equipment. So this is pretty exciting. And I see that you're using tungsten. So you're using a tungsten setting, and you're using tungsten lights. You set this up. It took you some time. Very deliberate. I noticed that you're using ISO 400 in all of these, which is fine. I don't know that you need ISO 400, but I trust you, and that I think that you're, really on target. You're being very kind of methodical with your approach, and this is a good execution. This is kind of unique. I'm not sure I've seen something so specific in terms of tabletop out of a PH 108 class. So this is pretty cool. And even, let's just go into one more image. look at image number 9. So you see how you've got these ornaments and it's really out of focus and there's a focus in the middle. But look how you've got the highlight in the front, the paper, and then it kind of falls and gradates in the background. So you must have set up a piece of paper, you lit this. This is harder than it sounds. Maybe you have had a lighting class before, or maybe you had some kind of assistance. But I'm really excited for you to take a class specifically about lighting. And we have a class called 345 Still Life that you can really refine what you're doing here. But this is a very good start and a good collection of 10 and a good match to your artist statement. I think your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted. I think you're doing very well. This is a nice collection of a final 10. Nice job.